Next stitch is going to be Milanese stitch, and this is a lovely stitch to do. It's quite a flat stitch, often used for skies, and I like to do it in a silk, so I've used 2 strands of yellow, 2 of pale yellow and 2 of a pale green colour, and we will vary the shades because we've got quite a big area here. So you want to start at the top left hand corner and just take a stitch over one thread diagonally and then go down to the next hole, and you're now over 2 threads diagonally, and carry on down. So you're going vertically and horizontally into that corner, and we're doing 4 stitches in all. Be careful about your tension with this stitch, make sure it's even. And now we're going to repeat that. Don't pierce the thread as you come up, don't pierce your thread you've already worked. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 stitches. And now again. That's the first stitch. Now just go vertically down to do your second stitch and horizontally across. You can see I've done my knot here so that when I get to here and I put my knot in the direction of travel, I can cut it off. So I'm going to continue with this, and I'll meet you when I've got down here so I can show you how to go back the other way. I've done a little bit more and I had to change threads about here, so I've exchanged a green for 2 strands of brown just to shade it a little bit, give it a bit more interest. And you don't have to do this, you can do it with whichever strands you fancy, whichever combinations of colours. And you can see that I want it to line up with this web stitch here. So I want my final stitch on this side to be on this line. I've just put a pin here. It may jump out, but I'm hoping that will help me to get it lined up. Yeah, there you go. I think I'll just use the ruler instead. It seemed like a good idea, but so I think that's my final stitch on that side, and you can just check, sort of line it up. That's right. So I now want to continue with the pattern. So that's okay. And that's my final stitch. So again, I'm continuing with the pattern. I have nowhere to go here, so I just go to there. That's my third stitch. And then I've got a fourth stitch, and I'm going to have to watch this down here, but I don't think I'm there yet. Okay, so that might look a bit strange, but it's correct. Now we're going to go back the other way. I'm actually going to start here so that you can see the whole pattern, because these other bits are filling in bits and they're a little bit more difficult. So I would normally start here, but I'm going to just start here on the one that's the fourth stitch. And you're now going to do opposite to what you did before, going in the other direction. So you're going opposite the fourth stitch with the first stitch, so that's over one thread, and then we're going vertically and then horizontally. So you're just filling in, and it's fairly straightforward to do when you've got whole stitches. It becomes a little bit more tricky when you've got to fill in, but we can do that later. So now we're back to the first one, and you need to be careful to not go too far. To make sure it is this one, you might need to nudge it over a little bit. So that's 2 stitches done. It's up to you whether you change colour when you get up to here. I did change colour here. I put a brown in instead of the yellow, and I've nearly got to the top. One of the things that's difficult is keeping your threads, the strands, straight so that they don't look twisted when you do your stitch. If you've got a laying tool, some of you might find that useful. So as the thread goes through, you can just make sure it's straight, but be conscious of untwisting your thread as well. And the other thing with this stitch is you can often miss that first hole and go a bit too far, so make sure you get that right. Now obviously we don't want to go all the way up here, so just fill in. It becomes obvious then where you fill in. And now we can go back the other way to here. And when I get here, I will fill in these bits that we left out with you, let's say when we get there. So I'm going to go to here. Now I'm back on my stitch over one thread. That's my first stitch. and I'm going horizontal and so on. I've come back down the other way and I've got pale yellow, brown and pale green in my needle, and I've filled in a complete block here to take me to the line. I don't want to go any further than that, and I've just got some little tent stitches to complete there, so they're just single stitches. And now I can almost get back to the pattern. And there we go. So back to my first stitch, the second, and so on. So I'm going to complete this section now. In the same way, I'm going to change shades, and you can change to whichever shades you like. And you can have any combination. You can change shades mid-stitch, so you can do a couple of stitches and then change shades, or you can just do them more in blocks, whatever you prefer. So I'm going to come back when I'm down here somewhere. I'm going to do exactly the same on this side. It doesn't matter whether you start at the top or the bottom. I've come to this corner now, and as you can see, I've sort of shaded it darker in this corner and paler in this one, and I've got all 6 strands of the pale yellow now in my needle. It can be harder to work the stitch that's over 4 threads first rather than the stitch that's over 1 thread, and it's just a question of counting really 1, 2, 3, 4 to make sure that you come up in the right place and go down in the right place. And once you've got that first stitch in, it shouldn't be too bad. So now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And just be careful of this bottom line as well. You can use a ruler to make sure that you don't go over it or that you go far enough. Just going to cut this off. And I'll just finish this last little bit with you so that you can see some of the broken stitches. That's the sort of half stitches. So I've counted this next one down, and I'd really need to go another one, but it would be too far. So I'm just going over 3 threads. And there's only 3 stitches there. Now going back to here, just filling in there. Now I'm back to going opposite a long stitch, so there's always just one thread stitch, and then 1, 2, 3. I haven't got enough room for the fourth, so that's just over 3. Going to untwist my thread a bit. So just 3 stitches in there. And then it's a question of filling in to make the corner. These last 3 stitches. And that's the Milanese stitch completed. So we're going to do a stitch in this section here next.